Hi guys, it's Alexandra here. Welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to share with you the first video in a series that I would like to do here on my channel called Let's Be Real, where essentially I pick a topic and then I discuss my thoughts and feelings on that topic. It won't be like hard-hitting stuff necessarily. Some of it's just to get to know me a little bit better and to talk about things that I really enjoy. So for instance, this first one is Let's Be Real, honest reader thoughts. So I'm going to be talking to you guys about some of the things that I think and feel as a reader that maybe you will either agree with or disagree with, and that's okay. But just getting to know me as a reader a bit better and get to talk about books, and that's always a good time. So I'm going to go ahead and jump into this with the first honest reader thought. Alright, so my first honest reader thought is that I enjoy unhauling books. I know a lot of people do not enjoy unhauling books. They really want to keep their collection growing and growing and growing, and that is totally okay. That is a valid thing. If you are capable of continuing to grow your collection and buying more books, and you have the space available to you to keep all of them on your shelves, I am totally okay with that. You do what makes you happy, and I definitely do have a decent sized collection of books, but I do find a lot of joy in unhauling them and going through my collection and really trying to declutter and decide which books do I really see myself reading again in the future, or if I've purchased them but haven't read them, do I still see myself reading that book in the near future? And if the answer is no to that, or I feel like I won't reread it again, there's no harm in my eyes in letting that book go. And as a younger reader, I did not want to get rid of books. If it came into my collection, I wanted it to stay, and it's really been over the last, I think, 3 to 4 years that I started to understand how satisfying it can be to declutter and unhaul books and makeup and clothes and all of that good stuff from your collection, and really pare it down to a collection that makes you happy and it brings you joy instead of causing you stress. All right, so the next honest reader thought is I despise small font in books. And I'm not talking like, oh, it's kind of on the smaller side. I mean micro font in book. And obviously that, I think that's still subjective, because I'm not saying, oh, size 8 or 9 font, but I do not like small font. And there's a few reasons for that. I find that small font is hard on my eyes. I can't read a book for as long in one sitting when it's super small. I find that I lose track on the page of where I'm reading, and I don't struggle with that kind of thing. That's not something that I ever have issues with unless the book is small. I would much rather always have a slightly thicker book page number wise and have a font that is readable than to condense the page numbers by making the font really small. That's just my personal opinion. Maybe it's because I don't have super great eyesight, but it is one of my least favorite things about certain books. Like, I can enjoy everything about the content of the book, but the format of it, if the font is really small, it does diminish some of my enjoyment while reading. My next honest reader thought might be a bit controversial to some of you, and it is that I don't really mind if I watch the movie before I read the book if there's an adaptation. That just doesn't really bother me, nor am I bothered if things are changed a bit from the book to the movie. It's not that I don't try to often read the book before I go and watch the movie. That's pretty normal. If I see they're going to make an adaptation of a book and the story looks interesting, I will often try and read it before it comes to theaters. But sometimes that just doesn't happen, and that doesn't bother me one bit. And I think a reason that I'm not bothered by that is I am not what I call a book thumper, where somebody reads the book and they then go watch the movie and they're comparing it like bit by bit with what happened in the story, and they get frustrated when things are too different in their opinion. I don't do that. I watch movies for enjoyment and I read books for enjoyment, and I'm fully aware that when they're taking a book, no matter how much you love it, and turning it into a movie, things are going to be different. Characters are not necessarily going to look the way that you imagined them to look. They may not The actor may not speak lines the way that you think that that character would say that line. Sometimes the timeline of events in the story might be a bit different. Things are obviously left out, but that doesn't mean that the movie is bad. They are taking a book, which could be several hundred pages long, like I think about the Harry Potter books or something like that, where 600-700 pages long, and they're going to try and condense that into 2 to 2.5 hours of a film. They can't do everything, and no matter what they do, there's going to be somebody who doesn't care for it. So they're trying to please as many people as possible. So I don't mind if I watch the movie first and then read the book, because I can enjoy the book and enjoy the movie even if they're not very similar. And I don't mind if things are different from book to movie. Now, that's not to say that I'm okay with poor adaptations of movies, of books to movies. Like, I do not like the Eragon adaptation. They royally messed that up. I did not care for the Percy Jackson adaptations. They messed that up. But like Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, that kind of stuff, they're not exactly the same, but they're very, very similar. And the changes that happened or the things that were left out don't bother me. The next honest reader opinion that I have is I really used to dislike audiobooks, and I cannot listen to them while I do most tasks. I do enjoy audiobooks now, but it took a while for me to find the way that I can enjoy them. So when I first started listening to audiobooks, I really didn't like it because I was trying to do it while I was doing other tasks. So I would be typing a paper or working on a lesson or doing something that required my brain to focus on the major task at hand. And I would find myself having listened to 45 minutes of an audiobook, and I would get done and I would go, I have no idea what just happened in the last 45 minutes of that book. Like, not even a clue. And I kept thinking to myself, how do the people who listen to audiobooks actually understand the story that they're listening to? I didn't get it. I didn't understand it. Then I started to listen to audiobooks as I was falling asleep. So I would set a 30-minute sleep timer. And that was when I realized that I did enjoy audiobooks, and I did enjoy having a story read to me in that way, and I could understand it, but I wasn't making my brain focus on more than one thing at a time. I could just kind of lay there and relax and listen. And then I really did enjoy them, and I do listen to audiobooks quite often now, and they've become a great way for me to consume books while still being able to have time in my day for other things. Like, I can listen to a book every night before I go to bed, and in a week's time I have it finished. Or I can listen to it while I clean my apartment, and in a few cleaning sessions I've got a book finished, and that's awesome. The other thing that I realized is that I will never be the person when I listen to an audiobook that can crank it up to 1.75 or 2.0 speed. I can't do it. A, I can't really understand what they're saying and follow the plot very well. And B, it just becomes like a slew of words that's getting thrown at me instead of a story that's being told. I lose the character and the writing style when it gets sped up like that. I do speed it up a little bit, like 1.25, 1.5, depending on the speed that the narrator is speaking, but I don't know how people listen to it at 1.75 or 2.0 speed. If you can and you enjoy it, awesome. I just personally can't do it. All right, so my next honest reader thought is that I prefer short chapters to long chapters, at least right now in my reading journey. They, for me, help quicken the pace of the novel. I find that it clips by a lot faster. They keep me motivated because I can see my progress. I'm like, oh man, look, I'm already on chapter 13. That's motivating to me as a reader. And it's not that I dislike long chapters, because I think if they're constructed well, they are totally fine and valid, and I get that some books, that style of breaking up the story works a lot better. But I found that in a lot of books where there's long chapters, the construction of the chapter is not my favorite. And what I mean by that is the chapter because it's so long, focuses on too many different scenes, plot points, things that are going on. And so it feels like it isn't a unified chapter. It feels like the author has put 3 or 4 chapters into one. For what sake, I don't know. I kind of think of chapters sort of like paragraphs. Each paragraph usually has its own topic, and when you move to the next one in writing, you're kind of transitioning to the next thought. I always think of each chapter has its own topic and set of events that are cohesive and go together, and when you move to the next one, when you move to the next set of topics or things that happen, you should be moving to the next chapter. And again, that's just my personal opinion. Nothing wrong with long chapters, just I don't personally love them as much as short chapters when I read. The next one is, I right now am preferring shorter books to longer books. And that is not to say that I will not read long books. I certainly do. I love the Keeper of the Lost Cities books, and they are certainly long. I enjoy long books, but right now, because I'm kind of just edging out of a reading slump, short books are the way to go. 300 to 350 pages or less is ideal because I fly through them. It keeps me motivated. The plot is usually quicker, which again keeps me engaged. And right now I just need that. That is what my brain is craving when it comes to reading. There are long books, again, that I will read and that I have a desire to pick up, but right now is not the time for me to be picking those up, I don't think. My next honest reader thought is that I get so much joy just being around books, not just reading them. Obviously, I love reading books. They bring me a great deal of happiness, but just like being near books or going into a bookstore, that fills my heart with joy. Before all of the social distancing stuff started happening, I would go to Barnes & Noble about once a week, usually on Friday, and I would just browse. I had no intention of buying books every time that I went in. That would not be financially possible for me, but I loved going in and looking at the books and browsing the shelves and adding books to my TBR, and then just kind of enjoying being in that setting. It just made me really happy. Okay, so 2 more honest reader thoughts. The next one is that rearranging and reorganizing my bookshelves gives me a lot of reading inspiration. So if I'm feeling uninspired to read, or I feel like there's just nothing on my shelves that I want to pick up and I'm feeling tempted to go out and buy more books, even though I definitely don't need to, I find that if I just take an hour or so and take the books off of my shelves and rearrange them and find a new order or way to display them in, that as I'm doing that, I feel inspired to pick up the books I already have. And I think that's because it reminds me of really good books that I've already read that I wouldn't mind rereading. And it reminds me as well of books that I've picked up but haven't read yet. And I feel almost like I'm shopping again, essentially, and reorganizing and arranging my bookshelves, and I'm much more likely to find something that I already own that I'd like to pick up. And the last honest reader thought for this video is that BookTube gives me a ton of joy, and I am super grateful for it. I know that a lot of you probably feel the same way that I do, but when I discovered BookTube, which was about 3 or 4 years ago, it was a game changer for me. I had already been loving makeup channels and makeup videos because I love that just as much as I love books. And I love watching other people talk about stuff that I enjoy too. It inspires me to be more creative and just dive into that passion. And when I found BookTube, I found a lot of comfort and joy in hearing other people talk about books the way that I feel about books. Like, you could just tell their love and passion for it. And I think what's also really neat, especially with BookTube, is that there seems to be a space on here for everybody, for creators who read only a specific genre, for creators who talk about books very analytically, people who are for people who are total mood readers and just are in it for the pure fun of it. There's room for people who watch the videos and interact with them but don't make content. It's just, I think, a very awesome place here on YouTube, and I'm incredibly grateful for that. And it definitely inspired me to start sharing my love for books and makeup and other topics with people here on the internet, but also in person. I run a book club with my students, and I don't know if I ever would have had the courage to start that book club if I hadn't already been sharing my love and knowledge of books with you guys on here. I felt a lot more confident in talking about my book thoughts and just getting people interested in reading, having already made videos here on YouTube. Alrighty guys, so those were my Let's Be Real Honest Reader thoughts. I hope to continue this series with other topics, some more broad like this and others more specific. I hope that you enjoyed it. Please stay safe, happy, and healthy, and I will talk to you guys next time.